Right, everybody, we are live. Welcome to the June 6th Strength Club weekly shitposting seminar. We're going to be going over the starting strength overhead press. More importantly, we're going to be talking about Chase's fingernails. Chase, what's going on there, man?
So I don't know if I told you all this, but like I had mashed my finger probably a month and a half ago. Nothing serious, just mashed in between two plates. Sometimes it happens. But it wasn't serious enough to where usually what you do is you drill a hole and you let the blood squirt out and all this stuff. It wasn't that bad.
Well, what do you drill a hole with exactly? I mean, is it a power drill?
Okay, so I've done this
hot
in the past. Yeah, it's either a hot needle, an actual drill bit, just kind of like, twist it here like this. You don't actually get like a drill. But I did it one time where I mashed my finger in between a door with a fork. I heated up a fork and I just went, yeah. That was pretty effective. It hurt like fuck, but with this, it dried underneath. It killed the nail bed. I'm kind of just picking at my fingers. I always do that with calluses and stuff like that. And I was kind of messing with it, and I ended up picking a hole through it. So now, like, part of my nail bed is exposed, but it's all hard. And then this new one.
You're gonna lose the finger, man. You're gonna lose the
finger.
I
hope not.
Chase is going to get a handicap sticker. He'll be able to get the closer parking spots at the mall. It's going to be great. But we have Mick here with us. Mick is going to be hanging out for the episode.
How's it going, fellas?
All right. Mick, do you have any predictions for the Mayweather Logan Paul fight tonight?
No. I didn't.
Wait, it's tonight?
It is tonight. Here's the rundown. You have one of the best professional boxers in the world versus someone who isn't one of those.
Okay.
Yes.
Wait,
so
who is he fighting?
Accordingly. Some random YouTube celebrity guy.
Yeah.
PewDiePie.
Yeah.
I would watch that. I would watch.
I would watch.
Maybe it's NoFap Gamer. NoFap Gamer versus Floyd Mayweather.
NoFap Gamer G.
Yeah.
Hope so.
His videos still come up in my recommendations. He was on my I was sitting on the couch with my wife, and we had the YouTube app on our smart TV, and then NoFap Gamer G came up, and she was like, "What is that?" She's like, "What are you watching on YouTube?"
Have you actually tried the NoFap? Have you actually tried the NoFap thing?
Oh, I live the NoFap lifestyle, man.
You're a married man. I don't believe that for a second.
Of course. Whatever. But anyways, we're talking about the starting strength press. Mick, as someone who has the most experience overhead pressing, how do you feel about it? What's going on
with the press?
Yeah.
Well, as someone who's sat behind a computer for the last 20 years, I've always struggled with the press. Mainly just my my shoulder flexibility is the limiting factor on a press. So it's always been difficult for me, I think.
Yeah. So first limiting factor for Mick, will to train and will to live. Will to lift weights. And then shoulder
It's cold outside, man. I don't think I'll go there.
And then we can talk about the press. Chase, how do you feel about the press?
I like it, man. I think it's the king of the upper body lifts. It's definitely, exciting to do. It's way better than the bench press. And I think,
it's basically a bench press for you at this point, though.
Yeah, it kind of is. But, previous it kind of wasn't. But I think if you want to develop raw power and strength, the press is the best way to do it.
There we go.
Are you the world record holder for the press? Has it been confirmed yet? What's the record for a strict press? Or
there's definitely guys out there who can strict press more than me because I do have some element of layback, but I think what brings to mind, like, do you know who the strongman from Africa, Iron Bibi, is? He pressed like 495. Now, again, this is with a wide grip, kind of like a bench grip, and a little bit of some knee punch or like a push press. But like guys like Eddie Hall and stuff like that, yeah, they can legit strict press for reps like my 405 press.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they press your 1 rep max for reps.
Yeah,
they do. Yeah, they also weigh maybe 125 to 150 pounds more than you on a good day.
Yeah, true. And juiced up to the hilt.
Mm-hmm. No, they're all natty. You just got to try.
Of course, yeah.
They just eat really well.
Create a lot of creatine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so here are the topics that we're going to run over. We're going to do this in a little bit of an unconventional way today. We're going to run through all of these things, hit through some videos, and then circle back to some press to finish off. This will be a little bit wider. The big things I want to cover are determining your stance, because that's one of the biggest things that we'll see on the strength club videos is the stance is all over the place for people. And then the grip. So these are setup items, which for some reason produce a ton of inconsistency, despite the fact that they should be hyper consistent every time, because you're not actually being challenged yet. So like when you're just taking the bar out of the rack, that's not the hard part yet. There shouldn't be an error there. When you're just standing the bar up, there shouldn't be an error there. Nothing hard has happened yet. And then we have all the hard stuff, like how do you actually use the hips in the Olympic press? And then how do you move the bar? What bar path cues do we have? Shrugging, why are we doing the shrug at the top? And then programming, frequency demands, stuff like that. Mick told me to slow down. Why didn't you just say that with your mouth, Mick?
Oh, well, behind the scenes, just like you're talking about 1,000 words a second. It's just you. So just
wait. Here we go. Mick, try that again. Now you're in the middle.
Slow down, Alex.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll slow down. But
the overlord has spoken.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll hit these one in a row. Chase, I want to get your opinion on these guys.
Can we get me off? There we go. Yep.
There we go. We can't get you off, Mick. That's what we're here for, buddy. Don't worry about it.
Take your shot.
But
yeah, so we'll start with the stance. Chase, you want to take it off?
Yeah. So whenever I teach people during the teaching method, how to kind of set up after taking their grip and showing them all the, with the angle of their hands, how to set up effectively for, keeping the wrist straight and stuff like that. Just taking out the bar. We want a stance that's roughly about a squat stance, because that's going to be wide enough to where, one, if you have a wide enough base, your balance is drastically improved. This thing has the longest kinetic chain, right? So you have a bunch of moving parts, and just balance overhead. A lot of people don't have that ability yet, just because they're not strong enough, right? So a wide base is definitely going to help this. Also, the wider stance helps when we add the hips into it, not bend the knees. It's just something to do with the angle of the thighs, or the femurs rather. It makes it harder for the knees to bend. And then toes, usually I'll just like to say put your toes forward or so. Some people like to cue, I've seen if they have a really bad knee unlocking, is just kicking out the toes way too much. And, that's fine and all, but I just feel like it's a little bit overkill.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about the stance width in relationship to how far the hips can travel forward?
So the wider the stance, the limited hip movement is going to be, right? And that's fine and all. But, I personally like the hips to travel more horizontally than what most people think, right? Because then it kind of adds a little bit of layback and
like more forward travel.
Exactly. It's starting to now think of it as like a throw and a catch. So you're actually throwing your hips more underneath it. And if you limit the throw by widening out your stance, you're not going to get an effective bounce, which is what we want from the hips.
Yeah. So that's one thing that I always like to play with. Like if someone's hip throw is very loose, you can tighten it up by widening the stance out, right? So it's like if you widen it up, it's going to be a little bit tighter just because the hip flexors are going to be in a little bit more of a stretch position in the first place. So that's a really helpful thing to do. Same thing with the toe angle, totally agree about that. And then with the grip width, so a lot of people have been taking either a very overly narrow grip and it'll be floating up towards basically their nose, or they'll take an overly wide kind of bodybuilder-esque grip. And then they both have their advantages in the press to a certain extent. So you can shorten the range of motion by getting in a little bit with a more narrow grip. With a wider grip, you can get actually some shoulder contact, making it not terribly dissimilar to a jerk almost, to physically have that connection with your shoulders. Chase, what do you normally go to? So I'm assuming you go straight to vertical forearms at the bottom, right?
I do. So that's one of the key points that I'm looking at. What I tell people, I love this cue. I saw that at a seminar years ago, was just hold your arms straight out in front of you like you're a zombie and kind of just let yourself fall and catch yourself into the bar. And that roughly puts people in the exact same place every single time. Or what I say is just take a grip right where that knurling starts. And that puts them about a position where the forearms are vertical and their grip is maybe a finger width or a finger width inside their shoulders, kind of like give it that give or take area. But that works usually perfectly.
Yeah, it's way more narrow than expected, for sure, for most people.
Definitely. It actually took me a while too. I stumbled upon this, that I was having a little bit of problem with throwing the bar out in front of me. Cues weren't working or anything like that. But I think someone finally said, hey, just widen out your grip just a little bit. And I didn't realize I'm using the same grip whenever, I first started out whenever I was 12 and now I'm 18. Of course, I've grown. So, everything's all bunched up and I kind of freed up some space.
How do you feel about people getting it pretty narrow just for the sake of like rebounding off of their forearm flexors from here?
Again, I think if it's too narrow, right, you're kind of like bouncing it off your bicep and what you said, your forearm flexors, to where it's going to throw the bar out in front, right? We want the bar to be over the middle of the foot. And, whenever we throw the hips, the bar will essentially drop down over the middle of the foot and then come back up. But with everything all bunched up with a narrow grip, it's already putting the bar into a disadvantage by being a little bit in front of the forefoot, or over the forefoot rather, and it'll have a loop in the bar path.
Right. So we're going to start playing this guy. Chase, do you recognize this guy? Do you recognize this lovely young gentleman?
Who's this guy? He looks handsome.
Is it still playing on your screen for you too?
I went black.
It's gone black now.
No, I think it'll come back in a second. But yeah, so we're pulled up the learning to press starting strength video. So hopefully we'll be able to go through this. Granted, the technical difficulties are not too great.
Still black for me.
God damn it. How about now?
There we go. There we go.
Yep.
All right, we're starting the show.
Oh man, that guy's got perfect fingernails though, so it's obviously
That dude's way handsomer than
other
me.
fella.
Oh man, we got a dog in the background too. We got everything here.
Is that your dog, Chase?
Yeah.
Yeah. About
So we filmed this
120
whenever the first government shutdown happened, and we all thought that we were all gonna die. So I was like, fuck it, I'll just go back up to Wichita Falls. For the time being.
You'll die there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's a pretty important little thing that just happened there, that little internal rotation there. Yeah, to get the bar seated more into the palm.
Yep, and you'll be amazed whenever you teach people this at the first start. They instantly feel a better connection with the bar, and they go, oh shit, this feels amazingly better in my hands. Because usually what they do is they'll let the bar just kind of sit back into their meaty part of their hands, and they're just kind of limp wristing the thing, and they always have problems further on with heavier weights with that.
Yeah, so we're talking about the stance now. We're back up to this great Chase freeze frame here. Vertical forearms. Chase, how much are you thinking about like thoracic extension during these moments here? Whenever you're setting up for the press, is that one of the big concerns for you? Is kind of squeezing your chest up into position?
Not really. It's more so just squeezing my armpits tight and kind of just making sure that my elbow position's in the right place. Now you can accomplish that with thoracic extension, but I'm more so thinking about making my pecs bunch up or my armpits tight and all that stuff. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because essentially what I've kind of figured out too is that the weight that I'm using now, the bar isn't going to be as high as it is in the video here. It's going to be a little bit lower, almost resting right on my delts. So if I can just get everything nice and tight, almost in a rack position from like a power clean, that's all I'm worried about. And it's hard to hold a weight up in that position. Whenever you walk it out, you're already worrying about 5 different things. So that's the last thing I want anybody really to worry about.
So now it's starting to speed up here a little bit. I wanted to talk about the shrug before we missed it in the video itself. So teaching the shrug, do you find that most people are able to actually clear like a good distance with their arm on their first day?
It's kind of 50-50. Some people have that, shoulder mobility problem that Mick was referring to where, we want the bar to lock out basically over the shoulder joint. And what they are is more forward of it, especially people who have, kyphosis, the older clienteles. Yeah, the bar is just out in front and
Yeah, that moment right there.
Yeah, so they can still shrug and all, but it's just not as far
dramatic
back and in line. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's kind of like a back extension thing, where it's like a lot of people will think like, oh, I can't get my back perfectly straight on the deadlift, so I might as well not deadlift. It's kind of an intention thing. Even if it's not perfectly straight, we don't really care. It's, are you trying to use your erectors to straighten everything out? Same thing with the press, like in this shrugging moment, are you trying to get the shrug going, and can we see the traps actually doing their job? If you're not even trying whatsoever, then maybe it's an indicator we should work on something else for a little bit. But most people should be able to get some sort of upwards motion with it. Now this part, man, this craziness, right?
Can we just have this on repeat just over and over again?
Yeah, this should be a good GIF. This should be a good blue GIF. Yeah. Yeah. So what are some of your favorite cues when you're teaching this guy, whenever you're teaching the steps? So you've already established how to get the bar over their head, how to get the shrug going, how to hold it. And then now we're saying, all right, you've gotten that simple part out of the way. Now we're going to figure out how to get the face out of the way. And that's by using this hip motion.
Yeah, I see a lot of people fuck this up. So, in this video, we tell people flex the quads, which you kind of saw me do. That's creating this wall of musculature that we're basically rebounding off of, right? I'm squeezing my abs, squeezing the quads, I'm throwing my hips forward and we're rebounding off of that. I've seen people to where they're almost tilting the hips forward instead of actually throwing their hips. Kind of they're putting themselves into lumbar flexion to an extreme. It's kind of weird. It's freaky every time I see that. But some of the cues that I associate with the hip movement is, throw your pockets forward, like you've been lassoed and I'm yanking you forward. Throw your
That's a
bladder
good one. That is a very Texan cue. I don't know if I would have come up with that.
I watch too much Looney Tunes, man. I watch way too many cartoons. But essentially, I use some reference point to the, especially for males and stuff, like towards their junk, because that's the easiest reference point that I can think of. And it's really ingrained into males' minds that, hey, this has to go forward. Bladder, belly button, some sort of that.
It needs to go forward.
It needs to. It is an imperative.
Next week, we're doing deep dive into sex, and we're going to have the same cue, funnily enough.
Yeah. It's just going to be the same exact video. Less shrugging.
Exactly. It is video, yeah.
And less clothes, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I always try to get people, I always try to literally tell them, it's like, we were trying to locate your hips, which are right now they're over your feet. We want them out over your toes. And then your shoulders are going to catch up to that, right? So you're going to throw your hips forward, and then your shoulders are going to come forward over your now forward hips. So it's kind of this 1-2 motion, But I think what a lot of people misinterpret this motion as the hips come forward, my chest lays back, and then nothing else happens. There's not actually a rebound at all. Whereas what we're trying to do is facilitate this bounce, which is what you're doing right now. So the bar is moving down, the bar is moving back up with it.
Yeah, and there's a huge, whenever we add the bar into this step, there's a huge disconnect again about, oh shit, I don't know how to throw my hips anymore. It's like, dude, it's the exact same thing, right? But, I kind of change up the cueing a little bit, hips underneath the bar more or something of that sort. And then if that doesn't work, what I'll do is, at the bottom position here, as they're holding it, I'll actually grab the bar, I'll pull it down to where I'm simulating a bounce, and I say, get a bounce. And that usually helps a lot.
Nick Delgadillo, I want to say it's like a better cue for fixing the press, something like that. If you just look at Nick Delgadillo press cue, it comes up. Basically, you can go behind the lifter and then replicate the bounce in the bar. You basically just bang on it a little bit or pull it down. With a lot of people, even without the bar in their hand, if they just get into this grip position and then you just kind of take their arm and you press their knuckles towards their shoulder, their arm will rebound just because all this flesh in here is nice and springy. And then basically, you can kind of tell people just to replicate that same motion. So it's like pulling the bar into your shoulder and then creating that bounce or that rebound with your hips. And then here's what I did. I forgot there was a casual 2-plate press in here just to finish it off. I did forget about this part. Beautiful reps. But okay, we're back here now. Chase, I had a few other questions for you. So to start with this, whenever you get stuck here, I found that people will oftentimes immediately forget the order, right? So we've kind of cued this whole thing where we want the hips to go forward and then the shoulders now to come and rebound up. And then that entirely gets disconnected. What are your primary ways of salvaging that for people and getting them to reconnect that?
Gotcha. So kind of go back on this, what I was saying earlier about how that disconnect of whenever we have the bar in our hands, people don't know how to throw their hips. The pressing motion is the easiest part, right? What fucks people up all the time on the press is the timing, right? It's the hips press sequence or the 1-2, something in that sense to where you can kind of formulate in your brain and saying, okay, as my hips are coming back, I'm just pressing it up towards lockout. So what I tell people is just to, throw the bar overhead into the ceiling, punch upwards, or overemphasize the shrug, because at that point, they're standing up all the way. A lot of people are kind of confused about when they need to bring their shoulders forward. I say, don't worry about that. Just press, and majority of the time it fixes it. Or, kind of squeeze their abs to where they get a little bit faster with the lockout.
Yeah, for me, I found the most reliable thing has been kind of introducing a little bit of a rhythm into it. I think that people press prematurely almost always. No one ever presses late. It's very rare for someone to go through this bounce, wait a second, and then try to press. Everybody presses prematurely. So you basically, like he was saying, it's like that 1-2 motion. I always say hips and press. There's this little and count. It's just to add a little bit to the rhythm, where you can kind of see it. Let's go back to Chase doing some reps with 135 or so. It's like the hips are going to come forward. There's this little count where it bakes in, and that's where the rebound is actually happening. And then he's riding that rebound out to press. So it's like hips and press, hips and press. And that's been a huge help for me, is to get people to kind of understand that it needs to bake for a second. It needs to mature. That rebound actually needs to happen. So the spring compresses and then it stretches out a little bit here.
Yeah, after I don't know if you've heard Nick Delgadillo actually cue the power clean, where he thought of the great cue of, being late on the rack. I've actually told people just to be late on the press, right? The hips motion is, again, the most troublesome aspect of the press. I don't care about if they make the press overhead or not, because again, that's the easiest thing to fix. You just press it up overhead. If they can get their hips further enough forward and can feel the bounce, I don't care if they throw it out in front or anything like that, because I can always fix it the next rep. As long as they get that association of, okay, I feel the stretch because I'm rebounding off of my quads and my abs, then that fixes a lot of the issues.
So we got a question here. Was that what you were going to do, Mick?
Yeah, I was literally about to.
You got it, Mick. You got it, Mick.
Oh, yes, finally. Andrew Travis, should the weight go onto the toes during the hip throw?
I've cued that before. The problem with that is usually what people do is they do a calf raise. So I kind of tend to stay away from that. I've had plenty of people do that. I'm like, no, don't do that. I usually just try to cue it in a sense of, if the belly button isn't working, or some area that's high on the body, throwing that area forward isn't working, I tend to go lower. So like throw your kneecaps forward, throw your quads forward. And actually, Mr. Stigsrud said it perfectly. Femurs too. I've used the femurs as a cue.
Opposite of Chase here, I cue the shit out of throwing your hips over your toes. So it's like, try to get your weight on your toes, because what I found is a lot of people, they'll stay mid-foot because they just try to preserve that because they've learned it so often, and they'll just throw their shoulders backwards, right? So their version of the hips forward, it's just leaning back, right? So for them, I'll say hips over the toes as much as possible. One thing I really like to do is, if somebody has drawstrings on their sweatpants, just grab them and pull them forward, like literally. Just be like, I'm grabbing your drawstrings. I'm not going for the junk, and then you can just pull them forward. That's always a really helpful way to do it.
You need to get a lasso, man. I'll I'll make a lasso for you so you can start training people.
Yeah. I wonder which is more offensive, honestly, which is more uncomfortable. Because normally I'm just like, listen, I'm just grabbing your drawstrings. Just trust me on this one. If someone has their belt on, just hook a finger into their belt and just pull their whole belt forward. That's a good one too. What else?
Mr. Stigsrud said, I like to think of myself as a bow under tension being yanked and then rebounding.
Just in life or during the press?
No, I'm not sure if this is press related, but is everything okay, Mr. Stigsrud? Is there anything you need to get off your chest?
He's being yanked and rebounded.
Yeah.
That's a good way to think about it. And then, I forget his name, but one of our starting strength coach in South Korea, he always uses, I remember in one of the videos, he got a playing card. And then he compressed the playing card, and then the middle of it bowed out. And he was like, it's just like this. That's all it is, right? So if I squeeze down on this and I let it go, it will pop out. That's the same thing we're doing on the press. That is a great way to do it, but maybe that's an excuse for him to carry around playing cards in the gym. Maybe he's magic guy. I don't know. But if you don't have a playing card with you, it doesn't really work. Nick? Anything else?
No, I was saying, you guys got anything else to? Well, one thing I struggle with because of the shoulder flexibility issue is actually throwing my head forward to try and get under the bar. What sort of what cues, or how would you fix someone who has that kind of issue?
That's kind of just a don't do it thing.
Yeah. Don't do it.
Yeah, so in person, literally, I'll just put my fist in front of their nose, and I'll be like, don't punch yourself, right?
Yep.
So you just put it right there. And then just be like, do not punch yourself. Yeah, exactly. And they will punch themselves one or two times, but they'll stop pretty shortly afterwards. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because what you're trying to overemphasize the lockout by throwing your head forward instead of just actually pressing up. Now, for you, Mick, it's going to suck because, again, you don't have the flexibility. But yeah, once people kind of realize that it's okay to have this bar where it's at because my shoulders are fucked up, they kind of stop throwing their head forward as much. And also, you get kind of the CrossFitter who comes in and they try to go through the open window of that old cue that fucking is just a big pain in the ass.
Yeah.
What does it put your head through the window or something? Or?
Yeah. So I don't know who the fuck thought of this, but whenever CrossFit was still kind of teaching the press. They would finish it by throw your head forward like you're looking through a window and stuff, and that's just overdoing. Yeah,
it's like how they measured a completed rep was some sort of head position thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Doesn't make terribly much sense.
No. All right, so we done with the press. Is there anything else you guys wanted to?
Yeah, I want to touch on. We have a few minutes with it. But programming with frequency demands. I find that the press responds relatively differently than the bench press does. Honestly, I don't know, Chase, if you find similar things with that. But for me, I think that the bench press can grow pretty sufficiently with a lower frequency and like a pretty more significant dosing of volume on each one. So like not a bro split, like you hit it once a week on a Monday and you're done for the week, but more of just kind of like a one day on, 3 days off, 1 day on, 3 days on with a big dosing, and it will steadily grow, right? If you're looking for volume PRs or you're looking for weight PRs, whereas the press, it's so skill specific that even if you're a good presser, you still need to hit the thing at most every other 2 days, I think,
Yeah, I agree for the most part. Like what I try to do is I cue it, or I program it just like the press in the sense that, if I have a lifter who comes to me and they want to start benching more, we got to increase their frequency, right? Same thing with the press. Both the upper body lifts respond very well to more frequency throughout the week. Maybe a little bit less in the sense with the bench because you can hit heavier weights than that versus the press. But yeah, with the press, if you want to be a good presser, you have to at least get 4 days of pressing in, at least.
Yeah, because like once it gets sufficiently heavy, it's so much more bar path specific than the rest of them are, because it's like it is very finicky, because it's not just kind of like with the bench, for example, where if you can kind of nail the J bar path, you can float it back over the shoulder, you can really kind of cheese it out. But there's kind of too many moving pieces with like the hips and just all the coordination aspects where it really needs such a high frequency to be pulled off correctly. And I think it's really fun to taper for that reason, So if I have anyone who's ever going for like a press 1 rep max, like it is a really fun 2.5 months before then, just because you can strip all this fatigue from the bench pressing and then just devote all of those resources that they've been using now to the press, and it's always really fun. And then shout out to Chase's pressing specialization article, which everybody should read as well.
What about accessory lifts? Useful, not useful?
The bench.
Yeah. So with the accessory stuff with presses, pin pressing, man. Pin pressing helps tremendously. It's ballooned my press for damn sure. With that, it's just getting the confidence, also the strength of locking out, a weight that's going to be heavier than your 1 rep max overhead. And then also you can do it for more reps, right? So you're doing more volume with a higher intensity versus, what you can actually do with a normal press. I've kind of messed around with some isometric work. It kind of does help. I haven't really programmed it enough, and I haven't programmed enough people with it. But for the most part, again, it gets you comfortable with holding this position here to where I can, take the bar out. I'm not worrying about, oh, fuck, this is so heavy in my hands, and I can accomplish whatever goals I'm thinking out pre-rep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think with some of the biggest accessories for me has always just been manipulating the bench, of course. The close grip bench, you can get a close grip bench that is like really similar in angles, or not kind of in joint angles, basically, for your elbow, for your wrist and everything, to most people's pressing, like the grip for a close grip bench press, normally maybe it's an inch and a half off from someone's overhead press. So the close grip bench press has been a big one for me. And then second off of that, a slightly wider strict press, right? So it's like you can still get a lot of the rewards from overhead pressing. But it's like, hey, all right, so you'll do your normal press 2.0 or your Olympic pressing work, and on your back offs or for extra volume, widen the thing out a little bit, do your strict press there, and then the jerk as well. Chase, how's the jerk been interacting with your overhead pressing?
For the most part, it's solid, man. I never really had a problem with the overhead stability because, again, yeah, I can press a lot overhead. The problem with it is just, differentiating how you hold it, right? So what's actually helped me, I found out, is just resting the bar on the anterior delts, it's helped save a lot of the problems I'm having with the press, just taking it out and worrying about, okay, I know the first 2 inches of this bar path, it's going to be out in front. Now I need to lay back to kind of get it back over midfoot. Whereas if it's right on my anterior delt and I can actually use a little bit of my shoulders to get the thing up, just like how a jerk is, it's helped clean up a lot of the bar path issues that I'm dealing with.
That's awesome. And has the grip migrated out for you a little bit?
It has. I think I'm about like a finger width outside than where I was normally. And again, that feels a little bit more comfortable enough to where like I'm kind of getting my elbows up in a better, almost rack sort of sense or jerk position.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like how you see people online where they teach the Olympic press, or how the people back in the day where they did it, where they're have a little bit of a wider grip. Again, that's kind of an issue because it's making me want to lay back a little bit more, but I think I just need to start programming the press a little bit harder and then clean my press strength up.
All comes back to programming.
It does,
son of a bitch. God damn it. Stigsra, do you have a person that you can carry on your back, wife carrying style, that's squatting? I use my fiance when I don't have access to barbells. I did something very similar, man. I would have my now wife sit on my shoulders, and then she would hold like water jugs on the side. She had like some 5-gallon jugs, and she would hold them. So she would like stand on the bench. I would get under there. It was pretty good. It was a solid like 250 some squat, and she had like a backpack on, a bunch of water. It's pretty tight. It's good. It's good.
Yeah, your fiance and your girlfriend's Mr. Stigsrud, because he looks like he's a bit of a baller.
Get them all together, man. Yeah. 6'3", tall blonde guy. He's probably doing pretty well for himself.
Yeah.
All right, do you guys want to start going through some videos?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right, cool. Mick, shoot the shit while I get the setup.
Did you guys go through Mr. Stigsrud's, I think it's his fiance, her deadlift video last week?
It was his younger sister.
Yeah, his sister.
Oh, it's his sister. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
she was like.
She had like 180 on the bar or some shit.
Yeah, she looks like she's about 50 pounds as well, so it's pretty impressitive.
Yes.
She could have been like 7'3" though, for all you know.
That's true. Yeah. Camera lenses. We don't know what's going on with these things.
Uh-oh.
All right, here we go. We got 69 or no, 6 strong slinger. Excuse me. I don't know where I thought the 9 came from.
Clean up your mind.
Sorry. I think every time
we've had this guy on the show, I've called him 69 stringer. So
that's probably where it's coming from. Yeah. All right, what do we got? We got a 55-pound press here. Oh. Careful on the unrack. He's a very careful man. We may only see 1 rep here.
I hope he just stands there the whole time. Oh, no, he's going to get him out.
Oh, bada boom. Interesting. I want to see what the rest of his lifts look like. I'm very curious now.
That first rep flew up and it was just there.
So this guy he's really overemphasizing the press, right? So you can kind of see like as he's starting, his hips look decent, and then as he progresses, they kind of get more and more diminished, and he's just pressing the thing. And again, what Alex was talking about with the timing, that 1 and 2 sequence, it's starting just to kind of get muddled together. 6 string, I would just again use the cue of be late on the press, get your hips underneath, and smash your mirrors, or the mirror rather, with your bladder. Really emphasize the hips here.
I would just say chill out, bro, is my cue for this one. Just calm down. I think you're overthinking the press on this one a little bit too much.
Yeah.
I think if you can strict press this, you can strict press 110 for days right now. You'll be okay. But if you're trying to do this, make sure that it's 2 clear, distinct movements. Like someone should be able to tell that you're not just pressing the bar. There should be a hip movement and then the press, right? So you're trying to explain it to an untrained person. They should be able to see the difference in what you're doing, right? So the hips should come forward clearly, then the chest should rebound. But yeah, chill out, man. That's the best cue I have.
So SK asked, how does one submit a form check? So you can submit it through the Starting Strength app, or you can email me at support@strength.club.
All right, here we go. This is Big Mike coming in.
Jeez.
Big Mike. He's got a few eyes.
Yeah, hopefully he's like 6'9" and his ceiling is
all right. This video is 2 minutes. I don't know. We're gonna do some fast forwarding here.
No, come on.
Okay, he's just changing the plates in his pajamas. We can't. Mike. All right, we're going for a squat.
No,
All right.
that was it.
Nope.
Psych.
Here we go.
How
We're
is he
live.
going to? I don't know how he's going to
What is
squat.
going
there.
on with this guy?
He's going to get stuck on the wall.
He can't
Maybe
squat.
he thought this was the wall squat exercise when people were doing wall squats.
Huh.
All right, my man. All right, Big Mike. Turn your rack around for one. If you're benching, your feet can be close to the wall. Shouldn't be the other way around there. Should not be the other way around.
Wait, did he say something at the end there? Or?
I think he just
Maybe
looked at his
not.
camera and was just like, what am I doing? But yeah, turn that shit around. Get down to depth. We'll move on to the next video.
Oh, you're not even going to help him out? You're not even going to...
There's a lot of fucking
There's
digress there.
There's too much going on here. There's too much going on here. This guy will be much more hopeful. He got some big old calves.
Well,
He's squatting on a mat.
He's got a bag of chalk tied to his rack as well.
Yeah. First things first. I don't know if I would squat on this mat, man. I would maybe take the mat away.
Yeah, I don't understand this. Like, you look like you're in a garage to where it's decent flooring. I think you'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that does not look good already.
I swear that Mick could pass the board exam or the platform exam. I swear, every time I hear these views, I'm like, he's got it. That looks like shit. Yep.
Sweet.
This is an interesting one. Mick, what are your thoughts, my man? How do we fix this?
Well, first I'd say don't wear the hat. That's a first one.
No memes. Fix it.
No memes.
No memes. Save this man. How do you feel about his chest position and his back extension, Mick?
Yeah, I'm waiting for it to load again because I was looking at his hat the whole time.
Too judgmental to be a good coach. Just too mean.
Mm-hmm.
You guys go for it.
Not even a guess. Wow, Mick.
Wow, man.
He's looking up. He's definitely looking up at the bottom. Do you think his back angle is too?
He's thinking lean over way too much.
Yeah, he's
over
interpreting
the nipples down at the floor a little bit too much. So what you're seeing, it's like whenever it kind of looks like someone's pulling up on a fishing rod whenever they're coming out of the bottom. It's kind of a good way to think about it. So like when his hips come up and everything's straight, and then the top of it starts to kind of round off, that's a really good cue for the coach to say, okay, their back extension is completely gone. So you need to start cueing this person to aim their chest up at the wall in front of them, possibly kind of pull their head back over their shoulders, make their neck long, maybe move the gaze up in like a last case scenario, but that's a little bit extreme because he kind of holds good at back extension on rep 1, then it kind of fails from there. But like stance is good. He's really good on the descent. He just can't control the position of his spine on the way out. Chase, how would you go about working on this?
Really, I'd actually probably widen out his stance. I think it's maybe just a little bit too narrow.
I think it's the mats which are doing it.
Yeah,
I think if he winds it out, he'll have to tilt up.
Yeah, I can kind of see how it's kind of throwing him off a little bit. But yeah, I'd actually just cue this, put your knees way over your toes and drop your ass straight down. He's in the high bar position to where, yes, we still want you to lean over, but it's not going to be as much as what you think. See if you can't try to work the bar down a little bit lower. That's going to help you kind of solidify your back angle a little bit more. But it's more so just, again, what Alex is saying, don't think of this as I need to lean over instead of just go straight down. Shove out my knees, go straight down.
Mm-hmm. I'd be interested to see your deadlift, man. Hopefully you could hold good back extension on your deadlift. Because like normally when you see someone who squats like this, their deadlift, it's a fishing rod again. They're pulling with kind of that question mark spine. So learning how to control your spine's position in space would be super helpful for you.
So that
was CJ Slinger.
Mel in the chat. Have any of you programmed chins as a core movement? How did you approach it after the initial LP? And then she said, clarification, weighted chins, not just body weight.
As a core movement, yes. We had Stigsrud. Here we go. We'll see how this video goes, and we'll touch on the chin-ups again.
Has anyone had more different locations for lifting than Mr. Stigsrud?
No, I think he has a little bit of a traveling barbell thing going on.
Yeah.
And his
It
little
looks like-
sister was lifting in a different place than this as well.
That's true, man.
Yeah.
So that was a nice clean and press. I didn't actually see the press or the clean part.
We'll go back to the clean. It's the
Ah,
first
fuck,
quarter of
man.
a second.
Sticks Rud. It's an arm pull.
Yeah.
So even though you're pressing, right, you still got to fix and do your clean properly. Just more shrug whenever you jump. And now I've kind of noticed this too, as I'm starting to kind of get into the clean and press for the competition here coming up, is that with not having a rack in front of me to kind of gauge how far I throw my hips, I'm kind of just not really throwing my hips as effectively, and I've kind of just been laying back a little bit more. So you're going to have to kind of cue yourself here to really overemphasize throwing the hips forward and getting a bounce with the bar. See, like right there, that wasn't really any hips. Again, you're going to have the bar in a little bit of a different position with your grip being wider for the clean. So you're going to have to get a little bit tighter with the armpits and the rack position of the press. And again, throw the hips way further.
Mm-hmm. I would focus. So you're getting a good amount of like toe kick out of the bottom as well. I would try to tighten that up. After that, you do not need that much air at the bottom, man. So each time you're letting yourself deflate a little bit, your rack position is getting like sloppier and sloppier and sloppier and just more defeated each time. Try to stand back up under the thing. Like really focus on physically making yourself tall. Because if you are letting your arms go down to sit the bar on your anterior deltoids to hold the weight, that's great. You're letting yourself lay back and getting your wrists bend, but you're not actually holding the bar with your chest, right? So you're still holding the bar with your wrists, but you're sagging everything down. Like stand up under it, get your chest up. Don't let the thing collapse and defeat you. I think that's the biggest thing here. All the stuff Chase said, for sure, tightening up the clean and everything like that. But if you are spending that much time in between reps to reset and then still getting that deflated, I don't think that's doing you any favors. Yeah, I think so for sure. Anything else to add on this one, Chase?
No.
Okay, all right, Stiggers are out of here. We got G Hicks. We'll check out G Hicks here. I'll talk about chins. Hicksy 86. Yeah, so chins, it's interesting. You kind of have to program them across spectrums of loading because they can handle a lot of work. So you can't expect just to do like weighted chins plus a little bit, weighted chins plus a little bit more on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Like you have to think about them in terms of variations, and the joint angles matter a lot too. So you can use like pull-ups as a heavy variation, weighted chin-ups as a medium variation, and then like tempo chins or volume chins or like a density block for them at the end of the week. You kind of have to tease out what your lifter is good at. So it's like if it's someone who's coming in with like a 90-pound weighted chin-up, they have an entirely different, skill set to operate on than someone who can do like 3, which is why I think chin-ups and pull-ups, so like programming for rock climbers it's very nuanced because of that, like how much they weigh, what their training resources are like outside of that. So like their deadlift, if they're doing any sports, it kind of matters a ton. But Nikki Sims has some good articles. If you just look up like chin-ups on the Starting Strength website, I think she has a good series on there, like programming your chin-ups. How are you feeling about these squats, guys?
So his name is Greg, right? Or
something
Hicksy.
G Hicks.
Hicksy. Hicksy, what I see is, man, you got to get your gaze up, right? So I've noticed this a lot, is that people with long torsos, they always have this habit of looking straight down. Again, in the book, it does say, 3 to 4 feet out in front of you with the gaze. But with you're getting pitched forward, right? So it's a balance issue. Looking out a little bit further is going to help you with this. And it's also going to help clean up and find your depth a little bit easier because you're about 3 inches, 4 inches high, man. I'd widen the gaze out about like another 3 feet out in front of you and then just shove out the knees and let your ass go straight down.
That could be a heaviness thing. I mean, so if you think you're at depth when it's lighter, squat lighter until you can do it more consistently. I think maybe the weight's getting a little bit of the better of you. I think what do we got? We got a red and a blue and a 35 maybe. But yeah, you got to get these deeper. And it could be the sensation of your belly hitting your thighs that's telling you to come back up. In that case, you just got to ride it down. Let those things compress against each other. They can squish. It may not feel comfortable, but they can squish towards each other. And then the gaze thing for sure. Yeah, kind of like punching your head forward. Like if you're looking at someone's silhouette and their torso is here, but their head is in front of it entirely, you kind of have to pull the head back and the gaze will come up a little bit with it. Yeah. Mick, any thoughts for Hicksy before he leaves?
Nah, I think Chase covered it pretty much.
GG easy. We got Gilly here. Gilly. Oh man, what an angle!
Hell yes.
Those sweat stains are
I love them.
very nicely shaped.
I was hoping he's going to look right in the camera the entire time.
He pretty much is right now.
He is. Yeah, he's looking all over the place.
Did he just shake his head like, "Nah, this is not
He's
happening"?
like, God damn it!
Why am I doing this?
It looks like he's in pain trying to do this.
He is. Hot damn, he is.
Oh,
I'll
fuck.
tell you what.
So yeah, there's a lot of kind of to digress here. I'd go wider with your stance, about under 2 inches, and then the big thing that's glaring at us is your face, man. I don't want to see your face. I don't care how handsome you are. Right? Yeah, no, you've got to look down, right? That's gonna help you stay leaned over and drive your hips more effectively. Because right now, like you're looking around like, oh fuck, why am I doing this? Did I hit depth? You know, did I leave the oven on? You just have all these fucking crazy ass expressions on your face, and you're not concerned about what you need to do underneath the bar. Take some weight off and work on this.
Yeah, man, take a plate off. I think it's the bar position causing a lot of insecurity. Moving the bar down to the low bar position will be really helpful for you. And then giving your head a task. So like aim your entire face down at the floor 4 feet in front of you. Like Chase is saying, you know, a lot of lifters, if they let their poker face melt and they're kind of like looking around, they're looking at other people, looking at them, they're getting distracted. They've mentally lost the lift at that point. You need to be concentrating on what you're doing. If you're just kind of looking around, seeing what's going on, you're not really concentrating. I think also the camera person was standing right in front of you, so you were trying to not look at them a little bit.
They could be naked for all we know, and he's just like, I can't glare at them because he's. I know
this guy could just be dong out in the gym. We don't know. We have no idea what's going on, Gilly. But yeah, low bar position for sure. Tighten up the rack, and that should be more comfortable across the board.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Oliver in the chat, he said, "Hi Chase. At what strength level did you start pin presses for your press?" Man, I usually try to do it around intermediate. So again, we run the novice linear progression. You know, Nick has written several really good articles about you need to run it as basically to its deathbed, with the sense that, you know, if you're stalling out with your 3 sets of 5, you're at least getting all 15 reps. You're changing it to where you're maybe doing 5 sets of 3. At the point where you're kind of almost doing 15 singles, you need to kind of change it up to where it looks maybe more like, you know, you're practicing more heavy singles, so 5 heavy singles in that sense. But usually about that time where, you know, it kind of looks like a more intermediate style, or maybe you're doing, you know, more volume on one day, heavy singles, a set of 5, some triples on one end. Usually I'll start putting in the pin presses at that point because they need more stress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it's very important to note that Chase never said an absolute number there. It's not like he's like, oh, I think that's what people are looking for. They're like, oh, at 225, then I can start pin pressing. It's like I have some female clients who are pin pressing 70 pounds.
Yep.
You know, so like it really depends.
Yeah, and you know, we all judge that off of bar speed and stuff, and just how well they're kind of doing the technique and
this
stuff.
This is going to be an interesting squat here.
Oh shit, it is.
I love it so far. Bada bing. Do you think he's going to narrow the stance up again?
I hope so. I hope he just keeps narrowing it every
rep.
time. Yeah, exactly. So it goes from like super sumo squat to like.
I feel like this is how people get hemorrhoids, squatting like this.
This is some ass pain for sure.
Yeah.
Interesting physique on this gentleman. Very rectangular lad. It's very rectangular, man.
It's just the shorts. It's just the shorts. I think they're throwing you off.
I'm talking about the torso, I feel like. But yeah, in any case, man, if you have the hip mobility for it and you can kind of get away with like a West Side style squatting and you have a squat suit on, go for it, man. You go crazy, keep your torso perfectly vertical. open the hips up as much as you can. If you can get away with it, you cannot get away with it at this stage in the game. So narrow your stance up by like 3 inches on each side. Keep the gaze down. Let your knees come more forward. We can see your heels physically coming off the ground at the bottom of the rep. That's a really good indicator for us that, you know, things need to change. The stance needs to come in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anything else to add to this guy, Chase?
Yeah, you're sacrificing depth here because of how wide your stance is. So you're getting that that preemptive abductor indicator of, okay, I've hit depth, right? So yeah, what Alex said, bring in the stance, and you're going to be able to drop down another like 2 or 3 inches, and you'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like deeper squats more than shallow squats for lots of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I think you should too, my man. I think you should too.
So right, Andrew Travis in the chat, he said, is there a typical weight that you usually start microloading the press on LP? Again, this is not, you know, like a certain set number. It's just usually it's a coaching preference. Like what I do is I try to take as big as jumps for as long as possible, right? Because the press already starts out so damn light. I don't want to have to go into another, you know, less stressful event of adding 2.5 pounds. I want to start it more stressful by adding 5 pounds as often as possible.
Mm-hmm. Interesting squat.
It was so good going down.
I know. This guy's got some legs on him, man. Short torso.
Does those quads.
Some hams. Yeah, I would move the gaze up, my man. To literally think about like your sternum, right? The person standing right in front of you, if there was someone through that window outside of your shed, they should be able to see your sternum the entire time. Aim that thing up. We will oftentimes point your nipples at the floor for people who are really averse to leaning over at all. You're already doing a really good job of leaning over. You're almost losing your squat by staying bent over it for too long, right? We want you to not be here. We want you to be basically up here as much as you can be.
Would you say this guy's in the short torso club?
Oh yeah,
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Frenchie, what you're doing too is also you're leading with your elbows out of the bottom. Again, that's just because you're not keeping your chest up, like what Alex was saying. I mean, you're gonna have some elbow tendonitis here in the near future. You're gonna be fucking pissed off, and you're gonna be like, "Why the fuck does my elbows hurt?" It's because of your squat, man. Another keyword, instead of putting, you know, your eyes up and stuff like that, make the bar roll down your shirt, right? Almost like it's trying to fall off your back, but don't let it. Just keep the chest up again, like what Alex was saying.
Yeah, try and pull your head back over your shoulders. You like, if there's a frame from here, I'll try and stop it, where we physically can't see your head at all. That's not good.
Yeah.
I think it should be on the ascent out of this one. Right there. So it's like your head is gone. Like in this situation,
the squat man, dude.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just all ass, no hand. This frame should not be happening, right? So it's like you're sending your butt backwards as opposed to up, and the chest is completely collapsed, right? So the knees need to be a little more forward. The chest needs to be a little bit more up. Think about cueing these like a high bar. It's not really going to change the squat very dramatically, but it'll change how it feels for sure. But yeah, these are pretty heavy too. I think he's a decent 2.5, almost 3 plates on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, solid work, Frenchie.
So Aaron Frederick in the chat, if I'm not bitching anymore and pressing 3 days a week, what could I add the 4th day to support the press other than the bench? I think he meant chinning, not ching.
No, he meant bitching.
Maybe he
meant bitching.
We got Tony Hinchcliffe in the live chat at the moment.
Yeah, he's like, on the days where I'm not Chinese, what do I do? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do.
I'm not ching anymore. That's what he said.
Yeah. Benching.
I meant benching.
Yeah.
Right, there we go.
Okay.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Airman, you still need a bench, even though you're, I guess, a press specialist, if you want to call yourself that. You got to bench, right? Because it is an extreme overload on the triceps, right? And you can do that again with a pin press and stuff, but if you don't have the available equipment or a bent bar to actually pin press, a bench is still really damn good. There's other variations that you can do, like a isometric pin press. That's pretty good, but again, I think you need to have 2 days of benching if you're going to do 4 days of press.
Yeah, it's a big maturity thing too, my man. So it's just like if your bench is 185 and your press is like 125 and you're like, all right, time to shine, press 4 days a week. It may not be there, right? Get your bench to 275, 285, and then see how you feel about it. I think Chase went over this. Oh, shoulder injury has removed the bench, unfortunately. I don't believe you, Aaron.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can probably do some amount of benching. You can change your shoulder configuration. You can change the range of motion. If you can do a push-up, you can do a benching pattern. You can probably do something. Doing something is better than just pressing, because what's going to happen is you're just going to basically run through all of your pressing a little bit too quickly because you haven't been programmed into it. You're using it kind of as a desperation move, right? So it's not like you've been grading up your presses over a few cycles. You're just going from all benching to all pressing or something like that. Try the pin bench, try the close grip, try flat benching without the arch, try a different grip position for yourself. There's a ton of stuff you can do. Like if you can press successfully, you can bench something.
Mm-hmm.
Chase, have you ever seen someone who can press very comfortably but no benching whatsoever?
I had one client in Wichita Falls. It was like that. And again, because I think he had either a torn labrum or something in the sense that, he needed a rotator cuff attached, but we even tried incline benching, and that was help. I think we could have even gone a little bit more of a more less of an angle, so to speak, or a more closer to a flat bench. But I agree with Alex here. There is a bunch of manipulation that you have to consider with instead of just taking out the bench completely.
Yeah, it's super rare just to have a movement and then just like pull it out completely. That's just almost doesn't happen. Ben asks, during lockout, should your delts basically touch your ears, or do you push your head through so your shoulders are in front of the ears with the weight fully supported by the traps and scapula? Hope that makes sense. What do we think, boys?
Ben, man, we just covered this at the start.
Yeah, we just talked about this for about 45 minutes, Ben. I mean, scroll back in the video to about the 10-minute mark and you'll get your answer.
Shoulders touching your ears. It depends on how big your shoulders are and I guess how big your ears are. But for most people, that's a pretty good cue. So basically what we're looking for is for the whole shoulder girdle to elevate, and then your shoulders are going to end up somewhere near your ears. That's totally normal. The head moving, it doesn't actually impact that, right? So it's like theoretically you're moving technically one of the origins for the trap away, right? I'm shoving my head forward, so theoretically that could screw with it a little bit. But it's just kind of adding something for no reason. Yeah, if you have to add something for no reason, don't do it. With the head movement, there's no good reason to do it. The shrug can happen completely independent of your head moving whatsoever, and it will still be fully supported by your traps and scapula and everything else in your back. Yeah, nothing is going to be relaxed.
And Baden brought up actually a good point. If you have trouble, with the idea of how successfully you need to shrug or what a shrug should feel like, it's going to be carried in the traps and the delts for sure. To where, you can just literally feel like your neck, or I shouldn't say your neck, but your traps rather, is just holding all of the load.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always like to say to people, it should feel like a stacked position and secure. Like it shouldn't feel dissimilar to the top of the deadlift, where you're like, okay, I'm just here. I can stay here for a second or two. If you have like the requisite mobility to do it, like someone like Mick, he's saying like if he can't get his shoulders completely all the way backwards, that he may never have a really comfortable lockout position. But for most people, they should be able to stay at lockout for 2 or 3 seconds and feel like they can carry the weight for a while. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right.
All right, boys.
We wrap it up, fellas.
Yeah, that's the hour mark. Mick, where can we find you on this wonderful internet?
Nah, I don't want anyone to find me. But
where do you want to submit videos?
If you want to download the Starting Strength app, just Google Starting Strength app, and it's got an intermediate app called Strength Club as well. So check that out.
And if we want to submit videos, where do we email?
Oh yeah, so support@strength.club email.
Okay, and Chase, where can we find you at, my lovely sir?
Just Instagram, Chase Lindley. If you're in the OKC area, come by Starting Strength Oklahoma City, and we'll help you out, man.
Things are filling up there?
We are. So what's been really crazy is that man, we are getting just kind of a bunch of people from all extremes, right? Like I have a person who has severe mental issue, not in the sense that he's a little bit slow. That's my first time working with a person like that. It's been extremely
Does he have
humbling.
extra strength? Is that a true thing?
No. But he has basically He has the capacity of, kind of like a 10-year-old or so, but man, super humbling. It makes you, work harder for your coaching, because you can't just sound like a brainiac, and you can't just sound like a pedantic asshole up front. And you got to make it super simplistic for them, and it's amazing, man. I love working with them.
Yeah,
also,
you should reach out to the people at Iron City Athletics. I know they work with that population a lot. Have you talked to them yet?
Yeah, a few times.
Okay, awesome. Good.
Yeah, it's just taking them slow, and again, stuff like that.
Okay,
Good one. Alex.
So Chase Lindley, and then Chase _Lindley as well.
Yeah, that dude.
Yeah.
To establish a reunion. I do online coaching. The link is in the description below. If you would like to argue about programming, I will come to your house. We can fight. I swear. But that's it. Thank you all for watching. Bye.